Hey there, and welcome to my first video blog that I've ever done. I decided that writing blogs takes me a very long time, and I get way too hung up on grammar and structure. But I also decided that I have a lot of things to say and think about, so I'm going to try this vlog construct and see if it's any good. I know my video quality is pretty terrible, but as a broke author, I don't have any equipment besides my headphones and my laptop camera. So we're gonna go with it, and hopefully it will be great. Also, I have no software and no skills on how to edit, so you're just gonna get the live, raw, unedited vlog, including cat, and hopefully you enjoy it. If you like this format, please leave a comment and let me know, and I'm happy to do more. And if you prefer to read stuff, just also tell me, and maybe I'll try to write blogs with more frequency. For those of you who don't know, I'm Lindsay Clark, and I'm an up-and-coming author, aka an author who hasn't published anything yet, but hopefully intends to do so in the future. I think it sounds better than unpublished writer, troll, living in a basement, writing in all her free time and not getting paid for it. So, up-and-coming author, that's me. And I've had a lot of thoughts today on this Monday, Manic Monday, if you will, Motivation Monday, for some of those go-getters. But for me, it's kind of been a demotivation Monday, and I wanted to talk about a little bit of something that's been really bothering me lately. If anybody else who is a creative out there, whether you're an author or a writer, or an artist, or an athlete, or whatever, you have a skill and you feel like your skill is just nowhere in comparison to good enough to be recognized for it, then this video might be for you, but especially if you're a writer, because that's going to be the focus today. We're going to talk about imposter syndrome. I've been feeling imposter syndrome a lot lately, especially because, as I mentioned earlier, writer troll in the basement, not getting money for what I do, begging people to tip me on coffee, or buy my art, or pay me for a product that they don't know about yet. And it's not really been successful, and when you don't have a book published as a writer, you feel pretty disheartened about everything. And it's rough. Let me just tell you, it's a little rough. And recently, I've been making a giant push to get productivity out of my time as basement troll number one. And I have been working for trying to get my book picked up by a publisher or do something else with it. Because I've been writing a lot. I have 3 books I have 3 books finished. And 2 of them are polished per me, and one of them has actually had an editor's eyes on it. So they're getting there, but they're just not there yet. And I have been submitting to some agents and publishing companies to try to get something to hook some fish out there. The one publishing company I submitted to that actually moved my book to the second reader is Falstaff Books, but my novel has been in consideration with them since about March of last year. The novel is a cyberpunk military thriller called In Memoriam, and it is the first book of the series I am calling The Savant Uprising, about genetically modified individuals fighting against large corporations and the cybernetically modified majority. So this book has been in consideration with one publisher for quite some time. And because of that, I had started submitting it to other agents. Unfortunately, I have only heard from one of those agents, and that was this morning, and that was a rejection. And I appreciate that I at least heard back, but it was disheartening because A, it was a rejection, and B, it was a form letter rejection. So, I know their time is valuable, but it still is a little painful. And I started thinking about myself, like, what makes me important? What makes me want to stand out? And honestly, this morning I couldn't really think of anything. So I decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to try to submit to more people, because it seems like there is always an endless supply of people to submit to, and an endless supply of people who are going to ignore you. But, maybe you'll get lucky. So I decided to go and submit to agents. And it got a little disheartening when I look at agents, and this is what one of the agents has on their wish list for fiction. An assured, strong sense of place, particularly novels set in the modern American South or other place overdue for a subversion of the stories historically told about them. Number 2, romantic comedies that are actually funny, have a tangibly constructed world beyond the couple of the center, and make me want to start rereading as soon as I hit the last page. Friend families, particularly the queer variety, friendships celebrated as their own glorious love stories. Bullet point 4, literary fiction with a levity in voice and character, a sense of humor, and a deep, earnest affection for the character and the story it's telling. Number 5, queer BIPOC takes on classic teen movies or stories with the problematic bits being fixed, like 10 Things I Hate About You, The Princess Diaries, etc. Number 6, the next big speculative novel with gut-punching emotions a la Station 11 or Never Let Me Go. Number 7, early, mid, late 20s coming of age featuring characters that are working just as hard to learn how to exist in the world emotionally as they are practically. And finally, big-hearted novels that feel like the best fan fiction. These criteria are really specific and really smart and really deep. It's not like they're saying literary fiction, young adult fiction, romance. No, there's like depth and layers. And as a writer, you're just like, I don't know, do I have layers? Am I like an ogre? It's really hard to know. In reading this to my partner, he said, oh yeah, your book has a couple of those things. And I was like, really? So I decided to do a little bit more digging, because having been so close to my content for so long, it just kind of seems like I am not doing that. I'm not like that. So in this agent's list, one of the books they mention is Station 11. And if you haven't heard of Station 11 yet, let me give you a brief overview of the story as I understand it, because Station 11 was recently picked up by HBO Max to become a TV show. I have not personally seen the TV show. I have not personally read the novel, though I'm interested in it because it's vaguely similar to what I work on, aka dystopian, post-dramatic world-ending event. And so I decided to dig a little bit more deeply into Station 11 and figure out, like, why is this agent so into this book? So you go onto Amazon and taking a look at the audiobook for Station 11, and here is the summary that describes the book. National Book Award finalist bestseller, an audacious, darkly glittering novel set in the eerie days of civilization's collapse. The spellbinding story of a Hollywood star, his would-be savior, and a nomadic group of actors roaming the scattered outposts of the Great Lakes region, risking everything for art and humanity. Now an original series on HBO Max. Alright, that was like the selling line. So here's the actual book jacket copy, or whatever you'd probably read on the back of the book. Kristen Raymond will never forget the night Arthur Leander and the famous Hollywood actor had a heart attack on stage during a production of King Lear. That was the night when a devastating flu pandemic arrived in the city, and within weeks, civilization as we know it came to an end. 20 years later, Kristen moved between the settlements of the altered world with a small troupe of actors and musicians. They call themselves a traveling symphony and have dedicated themselves to keeping the remnants of art and humanity alive. But when they arrive in St. Deborah by the water, they encounter a violent prophet who will threaten the tiny band's existence. And as the story takes off, moving back and forth in time, and vividly depicting life before and after the pandemic, the strange twist of fate that connects them all will be revealed. Damn. The strange twist of fate that connects them all, vividly depicting life before and after the pandemic, jumping back and forth in time? This is a 10-hour-long audiobook. It's not that big. How does the author get all of this done? How is this so smart? My stuff's not that smart. I don't have vividly depicted blah 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 and super secret connections that connect them all. Okay, well, maybe I do. But at first thought, reading something like this, you're just like, how can I compete with books that are smart like that? I mean, an acting troupe in a post-apocalyptic America? Like, who even thinks of that? That's brilliant. Brilliant. Here I am doing the same old whatever thing that maybe everybody else has done. I don't know. And I started looking at this and being like, well, maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I haven't thought outside of the box enough. Maybe my stuff is getting rejected because it is so cliche and tropey and whatever. So I delved a little bit deeper into this book, and I decided, okay, it's got 4.5-star review of 14,000 readers. Let's see what the reviews say. Well, when you scroll down on Amazon, I'm on the Station 11 television tie-in, a novel, the audiobook version. So that's the one I'm looking at as far as the reviews. Scrolling down. First review. Wait. 1 star? First review, top review from the United States. 1 star. Tagline, "This is a terrible book." What? But it sounds so amazing. Here's what the reader has to say. "This is the most disjointed piece of junk I have ever read. This author's constant need to jump back to the early days of Arthur's life is tiresome and of very little value to the story, unless you just want to know about the life of this person who died in the first chapter. There are places in the story that are poorly developed or not developed at all. We meet the bad guy halfway through the book, and then he shows up near the end of the book, and a kid we've never met just simply kills him and then commits suicide. What? The girl who should have been the main character pops in and out of the story, and I kept wondering why the author didn't develop her story as the lead character. Although exhausted, the girl gets dragged, along with us, into the tower to see that there seems to be electric lighting in the distance. I expected her to go up there, and then we could get an explanation about how they figured out how to turn on the lights, thereby providing a civilized world for people to live. But there was nothing more said about this interesting subject. There are items that are brought up in classic foreshadow which never developed or are even seen again. The author toys with us about the meaning of Station 11, but never actually tells us why this is important. You keep one book and I'll carry the other. What's that all about? It had no purpose and it probably wouldn't have mattered if she carried both or lost both, but we were never told. There's a museum in the airport that could have been a great source of some interesting plot development, but nothing happens. How did the people feed themselves? Animals? Fields of corn? We will never know. It goes on and on like that. As I said, this book is poorly written, and having read this horrible thing, I downloaded a couple of really good books on this dystopian subject and enjoying them instead. First review, number 1. 1 star. Crazy, right? Okay, maybe that's just a fluke, right? Every so often you get like a top review. Second review, 2 stars. What? This book makes you feel like you'll eventually get somewhere important. And the review says, this book makes you feel like you'll eventually get to somewhere important, but you never do. The story, like so many well-received books these days, has no point. There's no heart or moral. It drifts as though the author themselves lost interest while writing it. You wait and wait to find out why the various characters' lives are connected. You wait for that point in stories like these where the individual stories merge into a satisfying aha moment where you finally put the pieces together and understand what the story had been taking you. You never reach that point here. This is a very unsatisfying story. That's odd. Okay, how about review 3? Review 3. A nice change from the frantic cliches of the endless crop of zombie apocalypses. Alright, so they summarize the story in their first paragraph of their review. And then it summarizes the story more. And then it summarizes the story more. So 3 paragraphs of story summarization. 4th paragraph says, some might not like the way the story is structured, but I liked the story. What I got was the sense that the world that the author was creating. As a reader who is not confined to a single point of view, I got a sense of the effect and experience of both the collapse of civilization and human life thereafter. Further, the returns of the past and the banality of the life we've taken for granted, celebrities, movies, dinner parties, airplane flights, and the rest, creates a sense of melancholy for the world that is lost. This sense informs the scenes of the Museum of Civilization and the Seven City Airport, where passengers and inoperable cell phones are put on display for edification purposes. Remember what life was like when they worked for the younger generation, blah, blah, blah. The story worked for me. I was drawn along with curiosity to see what developed. The prose was lovely. The characters were nicely developed, particularly that of Arthur, Leandro. The mood and tone of the story were generally somber, but it makes for a nice change from the frantic circles of endless zombie stuff. Alright, well, okay. It didn't really say as much as the other ones, I feel. And it was probably somebody maybe who was not reading it for the same reasons, or with the same critical eye, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, you go on to look, and then, again, 4th review, 2 stars, labeled What a Slog. I'm not going to go into any more, but out of the top 4 reviews of this book, 3 of them are 2-star or less. And if you looked at the breakdown of the reviews, you'd see that the majority are 5 stars, where, people must have really enjoyed it. And there's only 3% 1 and 2-star reviews out of all of them. So, why are these negative reviews highlighted, first of all? And second of all, is this story really as brilliantly designed as I thought it was? Or, conversely, is it just really based on the kind of person who's interested in your story? Because as it seems, for me as a reader, if I read the first 3 reviews and heard that the story was a slog, I would not pick it up. I do not like slog books. But from the description, I absolutely would have picked it up. So is this all just clever marketing? Like, am I really not much better or worse than this author of this popular book that's now become an HBO TV series? Like, where does this all go? And it really starts to make you think. Maybe I'm not as much of an imposter as I thought I was. Maybe every author is just, part creative ideas, part skill, and part luck or marketing or something. So maybe I don't have to give up writing. Maybe I just have to wait for the right person to think my thing is good and pick it up. Maybe I have to wait for the right fans to want to read my stuff. Maybe I just have to keep getting my voice out there to reach the right audience. Maybe there is no right or wrong answer to what you need to be a real author versus an imposter. Wow, my mind is blown. I just don't even get it. Makes you think, doesn't it? So I guess my life lesson today for Motivation Monday is don't think that you're an imposter. Don't be discouraged if everything else seems beautiful and smart and way more creative than you are. Because, you know what? I bet other authors are thinking the same things, and I bet they are just as uncomfortable with their work in the face of other beautiful works as you are with theirs. So, keep it on, writing, drawing, dancing, doing whatever you love, and if you love it, you're not an imposter. You are the thing that you want to be. Life lessons from me. Hope you all have a wonderful Monday. Bye.